We have two representatives of the retail side of the equation here today. Two interesting, different points of view. Carrie Taylor, who will be our first panelist, is a lead registered dietitian for Big Y Foods, a family-owned supermarket chain in central Massachusetts. Oldways works closely with supermarket dietitians in our annual Supermarket Dietitian Symposium and our online supermarket RD program called the Oldways Nutrition Exchange. So we're talking to these guys all the time, and we are always so impressed with what the supermarket dietitians do, because they are there in the stores where people are making those decisions. It's all well and good. You know, at the Whole Grains Council website, we can put cool things on our website, and people read them and say, oh yeah, I should eat those whole grains. And they get to the store and they say, oh, there's my favorite junk food. I'm going to buy that. You know, these guys are in there in the stores making a difference, and so that's really, really such a key part of the equation. Carrie's one of the best of this key group of supermarket dietitians. She's regularly inventing new ways to promote whole grains and sharing them with us and so forth. And Jim Bressi is perhaps more exciting in a different way, because we expect the supermarkets to have at least some healthy foods, lots more all the time, but convenience stores? Have we gone beyond the beef jerky? We really have, and Jim Bressi is going to tell us an exciting story about this. Jim, his company, Kwik Trip, joined the Whole Grains Council about a year and a half ago? 6 years ago, okay. Gosh, time flies. This is part of being in your 60s. Everything seems like yesterday. Wow. But anyway, I guess it really came on we have 380 members now. I don't know all of what everybody does, but last year I went to the Partnership for Healthier America conference, and I actually heard Jim speak about what they do at Kwik Trip. Now, I see this little segment of his life when he registers a new whole grain product to use the stamp, but I was blown away by what he does with his chain of convenience stores. And Jim is a trained chef, and he was just down in Rhode Island yesterday accepting an award for the Johnson & Wales Chef's Hall of Fame or something like that. So that was very cool. And so both of these people bring an intimate knowledge of good food, and then that retail knowledge of how we share that idea of good food with the rest of the world. So let's hear from Carrie first, and then Jim, and then we'll have some questions from you.
All right. I'm going to take a seat.
Yes.
All right. So before I begin, I'm going to put you on the spot. Any supermarket dietitians that are here, stand up. Stand up. So two of us. So we did have one more. So Mary isn't in here. So there's three of us in here. And I joined Big Y about 9.5 years ago. And if you have been paying attention to the supermarket industry, supermarket dietitians are pretty much a wave, a tidal wave, some may say, that there are retailers that oftentimes have a dietitian in every store. Some retailers have a dietitian at corporate level, just one. And we'll go through my presentation, which I'm going to show you examples of what we've done at Big Y to promote whole grains out to our shoppers. So to get started, I chose this picture because how many of you like to go grocery shopping? This is what I hope you feel, the exuberance of running through the aisles with your child. Yes! Especially with a child in tow instead of, oh no. And so the first slide is really just to introduce the concept of a supermarket dietitian. So, oh no, it's not, just kidding. I switched them. What I wanted to do, which is pretty much facts from Whole Grain Council's website for statistics, I wanted to introduce what I've noticed since I've joined Big Y. And I joined Big Y in 2005, so right off of the new dietary guidelines that were launched. I joined Big Y from a nonprofit. I used to work as an extension educator with UMass. And so it's really interesting to go back and look at statistics of what happened when the 2005 dietary guidelines were released. And what happened is, as many of the manufacturers know, you jumped on board. You said, whole grains, really? Okay, we will make that work, and we will put it all over our packaging. And so looking at the statistics of seeing how much growth there were in whole grain products is really interesting. And then also just to see the sales, that our customers were paying attention, and yes, they were buying more whole grains, is also very impressive. And then the next one I really like is people's concept of what their behaviors are when it comes to whole grains, and that they are starting to get the message that they need to be eating more whole grains, whether or not they truly understand what a whole grain is or know how to cook with it, know how to love it, instead of feeling like, well, I'm going to eat the brown bread instead of the white bread. It's really questionable, but our positions as supermarket dietitians is to really empower our shoppers. And most of us come from nonprofit originally and as educators. And this is just one awesome platform to talk to a lot of consumers at once. So without further ado, this is my corporate team. It involves me and Andrea Luttrell. She's recently married. And she and I have been together for probably 7 years. She started off as my student, and 5 years ago she became registered as a dietitian. So we have 2 corporate dietitians for 61 stores. Now, that can be very uncommon, or that can be very small compared to any retailer in your neighborhood. So retailers will use a dietitian at corporate level, like I'm utilized, where I do mostly media and I do mostly education for our consumers. And really, in New England, we were one of the first retailers to utilize a dietitian up front. So doing television, radio, billboards, newspaper columns, magazines. And then you have retailers that will use dietitians for research and development, a private label. You will have them right in store, like Cynthia was saying, guiding our shoppers through the aisles. And we do have 2 contract dietitians, one based in Springfield, Massachusetts, and one based in Hartford, who does meet with our consumer and does tours on various topics, and whole grains is one of those topics. And then you would see some dietitians strictly doing social media. There are dietitians that are just hired for the brands just to do the social media platform and to really talk to the consumers that way. And then we also have a community arm. So even though we're a corporate team of 2, and we're really there for our publication called Living Well, Eating Smart, I'm more of the community dietitian of the team, where coming from nonprofit, coming from teaching, that's my love. So even though I work for a corporation, I'm also the voice of our consumer, and I oftentimes become an advocate of what I hear our consumers looking for, and what we can do as a company, what I can do when I meet face-to-face with our manufacturers to get those messages across. And so going out and teaching various groups is part of my position that I love. And actually, here's Mary, a 3rd supermarket dietitian. And so what I'm going to do today, and I have to tell you up front, this is a very uncomfortable position to be in, to show you doing work to a large group. Usually I just look at my pieces on a laptop, so that's going to be very interesting. But I'm going to show you different examples of what we do in print, but also for radio, for television. And I focus on whole grains, obviously, and it's really great, our program, because we are anchored by our newsletter, which is vendor funded. So we work with the manufacturers on what gets discussed in our newsletter. We never are told what to discuss. We actually, Andrea's position is to work with manufacturers to recruit their funds, pretty much, of saying, we want to talk about whole grains. Will King Arthur participate? Will Bob's Red Mill participate? Whatever the manufacturer is, does it make sense for our theme, and will they pay for participation so we can keep going? And a great piece of that is that when we do media, we pay for it from our team. So we add to Big Y's bottom line, we don't take away. And we control what we say. So anytime I do television, radio, in-store voiceovers, our team writes it. So we get to choose what we're educating about. And so we will choose, we have a new program to talk about losing weight. We need to talk about whole grains. Or we're going to talk about moms, because both Andrea and I are new moms. We're going to talk about folate and folic acid. We need to make sure that's a voiceover for radio. So we have that luxury, which is pretty awesome. So these are just a few examples of what we do. So we do print. I've had a newspaper column since 2006 in the Springfield Republican. And because we have that luxury, I can choose, oh, it's Whole Grains Month or it's Whole Grain Sampling Day. We're going to talk about this and educate our consumers about it, even if they don't shop at Big Y, but they read the newspaper. And so the top example is from the Republican. The lower one is a smaller publication outside of Hartford that talks about athletics. And I went to school for sports medicine and nutrition. And I was a coach, so athletics is near and dear to me. So utilizing the space that Big Y had in that paper to just talk about nutrition was pretty fun. And to be able to talk about Whole Grains Month and introduce a whole grain stamps was a no-brainer. And so we do a lot of radio. This voice is on the radio. I know, it's quite interesting. I was surprised too. But Recipe Smackdown was, before Andrea became part of our media team, was me and Mike Stacy. As you can see, the lovely cartoons of us smacking down comfort foods. And I have two examples here, but I think for timing, I'm just going to play one. So the Smackdown one, I will not play, but we're talking about macaroni and cheese. And I'm saying, which is true, I absolutely love macaroni and cheese. So if I'm making it homemade, I switch the noodles to whole grain noodles. I switch to a low-fat milk with a thicker mouthfeel. I switch to a low-fat cheese. And those are kind of real-life tips we make. But for Lose 10 in 2010, I want to do because it's very succinctly about whole grains. Big Y's registered dietitian Carrie Taylor here for this week's Lose 10 in 2010 Living Well Eating Smart tip. Whole grains contain fiber naturally, which is great for keeping hunger in check until snack or mealtime. Today, eat 3 servings of whole grains. Whether you choose whole wheat bread, brown rice, a whole grain cereal, or whole grain crackers, there are plenty of tasty options out there. Who knows, you may just find a new delicious favorite. Visit WRCH.com, search Lose 10. So that's just one example of, we've done a lot of radio, and that would run at really busy times. So when people are driving home, people are getting ready to go to work, these tips will play. And because of working with my extension families, which were the families receiving free and reduced lunch that we just learned about, I know how people eat. You know, I'm not going to imagine that everyone's eating whole grains or that they want to. And we were having a conversation last night that I think whole grains are sexy, and I think there needs to be a campaign about the sexiness of whole grains, because my social media team, when I was coming here, wasn't as excited about whole grains as I was. And so doing tips like this that say, you know what, can you reach for a whole grain granola bar? Can you switch to a whole grain cereal? I don't really care how you do it, but can you start one step at a time doing it? And that's kind of the way we focus our media education. So the next one, let's see, the next slide, and we'll see if it loads. I do tips for our local ABC affiliate in Western Mass, and we also have a YouTube channel, so we can post them on here. We also have deli screens, so when you're waiting for your lunch meats, you can watch the tips on a flat screen. And I write the scripts, I put together the production. I'm pretty much the producer, it's just me and the cameraman. And sometimes we do it in store, which I believe this example is, and other times we do it in a studio. But this is just promoting Whole Grain Sampling Day. So we'll see if it buffers properly.
Your neighborhood Big Y World Class Market. Today is the Whole Grains Council's first ever Whole Grain Sampling Day. And here's a recipe that's sure to make you a forever fan. Saute onion and garlic and add sprouted brown rice. Once toasted, add 1 cup broth and cook until liquid is almost absorbed. Repeat until rice is tender, about 25 minutes. Then add asparagus and carrots and cook until rice is al dente. Add zucchini and cook for 5 minutes. Stir in peas and cook 2 minutes longer, then top with cheese, buttery spread, and pepper. Find this sprouted brown rice vegetable risotto.
And so it's buffering, but it's just the end, so we don't actually have to play that. So there, again, I had the assignment of, okay, we're gonna write tips for this month. I have 4 tips I have to write. Oh, it's Whole Grain Sampling Day. Perfect. So we're gonna promote that. And then the next slide, that we have, which we probably won't play the video for timing, though, is another example of, okay, so it's the holidays. What do I want my shoppers to learn? Cooking with whole grains, baking with whole grains is a cinch, especially, and it's not vendor funded. Our spots aren't vendor funded directly, but King Arthur's one of those brands, maybe because they're in Vermont and I'm in Western Mass, that I love teaching my consumers about, because white whole wheat flour is so delicate and you can use it very easily by substituting for all purpose, that I did a spot about baking. You're baking for the holidays, let's bake with whole grains. This is a great product to work with, and you can make your spice cake and you would never know the difference. So things like that. And so for social media, we do have our articles on a blog from masslive.com that run in the newspaper. And we also have our own Facebook page. So Big Y has Facebook, and then Living Well Eating Smart has Facebook. And so we talk about whole grains a lot. When we're just talking about any other topic like eating healthy on a budget, whole grains is a great way to get your nutrition on a budget, or nutritious snacks for children. And we'll do trivia. We are one of the retailers that David Katz mentioned, or that you may have mentioned, that has NuVal. We have the NuVal scoring system at Big Y. And so we'll do NuVal trivia on Thursdays. And we recently did, can you guess which whole grain has a higher NuVal score? And really, as a dietitian, I don't care. I just want them to eat the whole grain. So I wanted a really good vehicle to introduce them to quinoa, to gluten-free oats, wild rice, and brown rice. And so we do it through trivia. And then our newsletter, in store, it's free for our consumers. It's online. It comes out every 2 months. We have anywhere from 4 to 5 different themes, and we incorporate whole grains all the time in most of the themes. And so this one I chose, it's older, but I chose it because our customer question was about what are whole grains and how do I eat them? And so just doing a very quick education about what a whole grain is and how to shop for them. And on the inside, it showed the whole grain stamp. And then just highlighting manufacturers that provide whole grains and how you can cook with them. And then we'll do a recipe to reinforce, like that's a Wassa cracker bruschetta, sorry. And so the fun part for manufacturers is that you're in the newsletter, but you also receive an ad, which, how many of you are with a manufacturer? Are ads cheap? They're not. And so participating in our program is a flat fee, but you not only get the nod from the dietitians, and not only do you get in-store promotion for 2 months, you receive an ad space in our circular with our nutrition education. So it's not just the price, it's not just the picture of your product, it's also why should you buy this? And that's an additional component that some manufacturers just sign up for that. But in addition, we also have special signage highlighting the products when they're on sale, and they receive off-shelf display. So as a consumer, those products at the end of your aisles called end caps, we guarantee these brands will be displayed for 2 weeks, which alone will motivate some manufacturers to participate because it's guaranteed off-shelf display, which will result in more movement of their product and higher sales. And so that's it. And if you have any questions or you want a newsletter, I have some up here and my business card. And without further ado, let's see.
That's a great overview of, is this on?
Yeah, I want to use this instead of the lab while I'm up here. That is a great overview of the role of supermarket dietitians and the fact that this needs to be the synergy between the manufacturers and the dietitians. We all need to be working together on this, and one hand washes the other, finding win-win solutions, however you want to describe it. This is so key. But let's hear what Jim has to say about how they do it. Carrie, let's move back.
Well, thank you very much. Cynthia, thank you for having us, number one. And I also wanted to commend Melissa and Samantha. Those two are up against so much, and what they are pulling off every day for our children is extraordinary. So, very nice presentation, Carrie, and I'm glad to say that at least from the convenience store perspective, we have one dietitian in our ranks. So, and she's here with me today. She works with me every day. Her name is Erica Flint. Just put your hand up, Erica. I believe Erica is probably the first dietitian in the convenience store arena, but we don't know that for sure. But she certainly is the best, I can tell you that. So, I'd like to just introduce you to Kwik Trip. We are a convenience store operator in the upper Midwest. We operate in Minnesota, Iowa, and of course our home state of Wisconsin. Very proud to be here representing 13,800 coworkers, of which all of us are fully dedicated to our customer service, and that's really what sets us apart. It's hard to be a convenience store operator in today's environment because there are so many inferior convenience store operators in our environment. And so our goal is, as Abraham Lincoln once said, to raise the tide and all ships will rise. And that's what we're really after. That's why we joined up with the Partnership of a Healthy America, and that's what we dedicate ourselves to every day with our customer service. So I'll just take you through a few slides about Kwik Trip. Let's see if I can get this going. You can see we're based in La Crosse, Wisconsin. One of our biggest proud moments is that this year is our 50th anniversary. And only 6% of businesses make it to 50 years. And we're going to be making a big celebration of that starting throughout this summer. We're privately owned by one family, incredibly generous family. And the gentleman you see there is Don Zitlow. He's the founder. And Don came out of the grocery store business, Gateway and Reinhardt Foods, and founded Kwik Trip in 1965. Don is 80 years old, still comes to the office every day, and drives a compressed natural gas pickup truck, which we gave him for his birthday about 3 years ago. We're heavily into compressed natural gas as well as our alternative fuel business. We just see that continually expanding. As you can see, we have quite a few stores up there, over 400, and we're very, very proud of that. And I guess our number is closer to 14,000 coworkers. So. At any rate, a Harvard business study once said, the School of Economics once said that the success of a company is tightly correlated with its mission statement. And having a strong mission statement that all people in the company work towards will make and guarantee your success. So we've come up with our mission statement that we all repeatedly say to each other. We carry it on our name badges even, and we're really fully committed to it. But one thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the last line, and that's where we would like to make a difference in someone's life. And that is something that we added about 10 years ago, and we really feel that that is now a very strong ethos of ours. So, I know Carrie here has an Eating Smart program, but we have our own Eat Smart program as well. And this is all born out of a local hospital unit called Gunderson. They started a 500 Club, which most of you are probably familiar with something similar to that, whereas you pair up a sandwich and an apple and a water or something like that and get a complete meal for less than 500 calories. Well, that was very located just to Kwik Trip in La Crosse, so we wanted to have a program that we could use in all three of our states that we service, so we came up with our own program, and that's been about 2 to 3 years now that we've been doing that. We also have a healthy concessions program where instead of the school fundraisers out there at the soccer field serving or selling pizzas or junk food, we've actually stepped up the plate and made an offerings of healthy foods that they can buy. And we're going to talk a little bit later here about how much produce that we actually produce and go through, and that's one of the mainstays of our program. Here's an example of our fresh case. When you first walk into our stores, this is what you see immediately. Now, granted, folks, we're still in the convenience store business, so Cokes and smokes and candies and that kind of thing are still on our stores, and we do derive a great deal amount of our overall sales from those types of things, and gasoline and tobacco. So I'm not trying to paint some kind of rosy picture up here, but it's actually what I'm trying to get at is that we're trying to change a lot of these perceptions, and we're trying to add these things, and we're trying to be an innovator and a leader to get other convenience stores going. And by having over 400 and having the sort of the recognition that we do within our industry, we're able to do that and inspire other convenience store operators. So that being said, though, this end cap is definitely one of the most prized possessions that we have, and we end up producing most of the products that are in it ourselves. So we are not only a retailer, we're also a food manufacturer. We operate our own dairy, we operate our own ice cream plant, our own beverage plant, our own bakery, our own kitchens where we produce the soups, salads, sandwiches, and also we have a whole distribution system that we use to get our products out. Now, we're our only customer, so we're pretty privileged to be able to do that and control that whole supply chain. But we do sell product space to vendors out there as well, but we're very selective about it. Here you can see basically our bananas rack. It's all fully devoted to our bananas. When we were on our way out here today, or earlier this weekend, 2 of our guys were on their way to Costa Rica, and they're going down to inspect the Domati plantations where our bananas come from. They make annual trips down there to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and that we don't have too many tarantulas and that kind of thing, and also that the plantations are being run to our standards that we accept with them. We sell anywhere between 42 million and 44 million pounds of bananas a year. And we've been selling bananas at 38 cents a pound for 8 years. And prior to that, it was 29 cents a pound. And we don't ever vary from that. Bananas are the #1 item bought in a grocery store. And by having and holding a low price on them, we're able to keep our clientele coming back and gaining new ones. Potatoes, onions, apples, you name it. We're in that business and selling produce and displaying it as best we can. Well, it was 6 years ago that we did get into to the Whole Grains Council and got our first stamp. We have 3 items now that we produce in our bakery that are whole grain breads. Our first one to market was a whole wheat white bread. And I was just remembering, it was about 3-4 years ago that this customer wrote in and said to me, "Thank you. My kid will only eat a bologna sandwich with ketchup on it on white bread. But now that you have a whole wheat white bread, I have fooled him into eating something a little bit better for him." So we're able to, what we call stealth health products out there and try and get some momentum behind it. What really has surprised us about this is that we sell a lot of white bread, we sell a lot of buns and hot dog buns and that kind of thing. But the sales, just like Carrie remarked, the sales have just absolutely surprised us. So with the success of that first item, we decided, well, okay, there's a market for it, let's go. And we've developed other products subsequently. The 2 other products that we have is a fiber-enriched bread and then a 8-grain, which I think our 8-grain is phenomenal. I've just challenged the team to develop that same bread into a bun so that we can start using it in our hot foods program and also sell it as a retail 6-pack or 8-pack. So our bakers traditionally came out of that industrial sort of baking background and really needed to challenge them to sort of get out of that reliance on the vendors. No offense to all you vendors and manufacturers out there, but you want to sell your product, and that's what makes America great. But we also want to sell products that are a little bit different and better for you. So we're trying to, like I say, challenge them to go in other directions and start to incorporate better and healthier ingredients. So with that, you can see our bread display. We needed a good way to display bread. Now, we're talking about a store here that has 3,500 square feet of floor space, right? So end caps and aisles and such like that are very important. So when you see something like this, it's prime real estate. And you can see our prices up there. 2 for $1 white bread, 99 specialty breads. So we're selling them because we have no middleman. We can sell them at a discount because we make the product ourselves. Our bakery is state of the art. It's only 2 years old, and it is one of the best in the nation. At least we're told that from the manufacturers that built it. So, but anyway, So our Quickery logo here is up for an upgrade. We've been riding that logo for about 12 years now, and my team and I are looking at it. We're also responsible for all the packaging, marketing, and that kind of thing as well. So we're looking at a whole new upgrade for the whole image of the bakery items, and we're going to have great success with that. Yeah, our bagels, our artisan bagels. We had what I call a bun with a hole in it, and we challenged everybody to at the bakery to go back to the drawing board, to the old-fashioned way of how you would make bread and a bagel. You know, how would your Jewish grandmother make a bagel, that kind of thing. And so we've come up with it, and now we have a 36-hour fermentation process that we use, and the bagel flavor is just amazing. So again, riding that wave of the success of the whole wheat products, we're going to be introducing a whole wheat, or as we call it, a harvest grain whole wheat bagel. Our bagels now are just phenomenal. We introduced them in November, and we've just seen incredible sales. So people are hungry for this kind of thing, more of the artisan roots behind their products and that kind of thing. So what are we up against? Well, the dreaded evil ingredients are the one thing that we're up against in mighty force. Just this morning, consumers, our guests have direct access to us, and I got another email, probably the 1,000th, you know, that 1001 that came across. What are you going to do about azocarbonamide? And I have to turn it right back to the manufacturers of the millers and stuff. What are you going to do about ADA? And that's where we're at. So we're going to be ADA free in 2015, finally, and it has been a 4-year struggle. You know, ADA is in there because of its stabilizing effects between the winter and summer wheats and some other things. But the only thing that consumers think of is yoga mat and Subway and all the trouble that people have gotten into. So we're finally there. We had to work with our vendors and our millers to get it out, but we're going to be there. Trans fats, that's a whole nother deal for us. I got to tell you, the most highest volume product that we sell is a cake donut, and it's fried. And trans fat oils and trans fat free oils are two different animals. It's easier for somebody that's frying French fries to make the switch, but when you're talking about bakery products or fried bakery products, it's a big deal. And they don't perform the same, they don't taste the same, they don't hold up the same. There's a lot of challenges there. Not making excuses, just explaining how it's going to go. And it's taken us 2 years to this point, and we're still not done. So we're getting there. Our customers are demanding it, but we've got our work cut out for us. So clean label, that's another thing that we're up against. Just cleaning up our labels, that's what Erica's tasked with. And we're going through all of our products and looking for what I call those evil ingredients and getting them out of there. Again, a big project for us, but we're going to get there. And then the last thing is just sourcing, just making sure our sources are clean and where our products are coming from. So challenge, again, back on you, those manufacturers and those vendors out there, is making sure, because we're going to make sure that your products are clean and meeting our standards as well. So I think that's about it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. The Partnership for a Healthy America. This was spawned out of our Eat Smart program. A group down in northwest Iowa took notice of it. That gal down there, registered dietitian, runs the county health program, happened to be friends with this other woman named Susan Roberts. I don't know if anybody knows Susan Roberts besides Cynthia, but Susan is the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Partnership of a Healthy America, which is the operational wing of the Let's Move organization that the First Lady is chairman of. Well, we ended up going through all the paces, and we ended up qualifying and signing a memorandum of understanding with them, and it's been a great, great thing. That memorandum went into effect at the beginning of 2014. We had our first reporting period just a little while ago. Erica did an awesome job in summarizing where we're at with all the commitments that we've made. You can see our commitments. In addition to some of those, we added bike racks. We added and making sure that we're front of package labeling, which a lot of people are yet to do. So we're really, really proud of that. And I'm glad to say that it's now spawned 2 other convenience stores to join on. And at our national convention just last month in Las Vegas, they announced that Sheetz, if anybody's familiar with them, they're in Altoona, Pennsylvania. They service 9 states. They're going to sign on. And then I got a call just the other day from Rutter's, who also operates in Pennsylvania, and they're going to sign on too. So we're really proud that we were the first, but you know, the others are going to follow, and that's going to help all of us improve our image, get the healthier product out there in front of the customers instead of the Cokes and the smokes, and making sure that the healthy choice is the easy choice for products and stuff. So anyway, here we are. I'm Jim, and Erica's back here, and feel free, please, to write. If you're a manufacturer and want to submit a product, be glad to talk to you. I know Bay State Milling is here, and they're one of our suppliers. So thank you very much. Do appreciate it.
Wow, thank you to both of our presenters. I think it's really interesting, not just with the schools, but with the retail. When you think of what's involved in somebody else's job and you really get to learn what they're up against and what they have to do, I'm sure they feel the same way about your job, but I don't know about you, but I sit there and go, wow, how do they do that? We don't have time for too many questions, and they've already covered a lot of ground here. Well, I ask a few. If anybody in the audience has a question for either Carrie or Jim, why don't you start lining up? Well, I ask the key question we're asking all our panels today is, what do you see as the big barriers to whole grains in your clientele, and what can anybody in this room be doing to help you break those barriers?
I think the number one thing I hear from consumers when I'm teaching about whole grains is cost. And so when they are looking specifically at breads and saying, you know, well, I can buy my white bread for this much, or I can step it up and pay this much more for a whole grain bread, it becomes an education moment for me. But if I'm not there, and if my consumer is not aware of new val, which is right on price tags, they'll look at their price point oftentimes and just say, well, I'm only going to spend $1 versus $1.50 or $2 for my loaf of bread.
Jim?
It's awareness. You know, we do sneak it into products, and I do love that I don't know who coined it, but stealth health. And anytime that we go out there and we say, okay, this product's healthy for you, we're guaranteed to see the sales sink. So we'll put it in breads, we'll put it in buns, and that kind of thing, and just see how it goes. So it's awareness primarily.
Yeah. What Carrie was saying about price, one answer that I give sometimes on panels when people ask that price is, well, when you go out and buy a car, you could probably get one with 2 wheels for a whole lot less, but don't you think it's worth more to get one with 4 wheels when you think about all the extra that you're getting with whole grains? Yeah, it might cost a little bit extra, but the value is so much higher, you're still coming out ahead. I don't know if it always convinces them, but gets their attention at least.
That's funny.
Yes, we have a question from the audience.
Oh, hi. My name is Esteban. I'm from Mexico. I'm a vendor of a company. We make pasta. And congratulations on both presentations. It's great the efforts your retail convenience store is doing on educating people to eat on a healthier way. My question is kind of the same on price, because we develop a pasta, whole wheat pasta, and honestly it's like my baby because I was in charge of developing this product. So I've been putting all efforts because I'm in charge of United States and Canada retail. And we've been doing some efforts to get it on a really good price, but sometimes, you know, you have a wholesaler, margin, and then the retail. And honestly, on products that are much more healthier, the retail goes beyond. You know, they put a really high margin. So you think, my question for you is, do you think most retail chains are being more conscious on not just selling products, but trying to sell healthier things on people to put in their mouth? I don't know. I mean, I wish all the change will be conscious on that, on trying to educate people on what they put in their mouths.
A lot of us are willing to live with a lesser margin on products like that because the cost does get almost prohibitive at times from the manufacturer or the distributor. It's a conscientious effort, though. You have to say, okay, this is a healthy product. I want to promote it. I want to put it on my end cap, and I want to move it. So we have to live with a lower margin on those kind of things. That's how we would perceive something like that and go to market with that.
And for us, since we are a family-owned retailer in Western Mass and in Connecticut with 61 stores, we have a little more flexibility. And our buyers have been part of the family company, probably from being a bagger and working their way through. And they do have flexibility for companies. And I know retailers across the country, the more dietitians that we're seeing at our meetings, the more we're hearing that their boards and their owners are very health conscious, and they understand that you cannot ignore it, and you have to really make it part of your agenda. And so the wave for food retailers is shifting, but also I think smaller retailers have a little more flexibility in those who are privately owned families.
I'm going to wrap things up here because we're already slipping a little bit behind schedule with one final question. When you look at the grain products, and it probably differs from category to category, like the breads, the cereals, whatever, at this point, I'm willing to guess that you're not making at least half your grains whole in your store. Where would you guesstimate you are in that, in terms of sales, whole grains versus refined grains? Are they 5% of your sales, 10%? I know it's hard to guesstimate, but if you have any idea what kind of inroads whole grains are making, it would be very interesting.
It's certainly growing. I would say with, we manufacture some products, but obviously we have Oat Revolution and even popcorn and those kind of things. So I would say we're probably about 5%, but we're going to see something beyond that.
And I would hate to even guess, since I'm not a category manager and I'm not seeing their actual percentage, but I know it's increasing because even our offerings in our bakery, frozen food departments, the offerings that have increased, like the brown frozen rice and the whole grain crust for pizzas, and then the snacks, and it's definitely increased, which has really been great because when we educate, it's a lot easier. And our mainstream aisle has more whole grains, so things like farro and wheat berries, and seeing that being presented to our category managers and them a little more open to the idea of bringing them in is really showing that it's starting to shift. I can't guess the percentage, though.
Yeah, but she's at
The
probably
growth is the
50 to
important thing.
50,000 square feet
Yeah.
versus 3,500. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, the efforts that you are making, and I think it's the efforts that you are making that is making that percent go up. So congratulations to you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.